The truth, dark, and mystery. It's the Drunk Turkey Show.
Big development today in the investigation into the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. According to state and local officials and court documents, 28-year-old Brian Christopher Koberger has been arrested. He was arrested and arraigned this morning in Pennsylvania.
We have new details on what Brian Koberger was doing right before his arrest. Police says a tactical team burst in to arrest the Idaho murder suspect. He was in pajamas and latex gloves, stuffing trash into Ziploc bags.
Hey, greetings from the year 3000. It still sucks. This is Philip J. Pride, and you're listening to the Drunken Turkey Show. Your one stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do, just like every other podcast.
You guys know what to do, just like every other podcast. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the DT Show. I'm Daniel, and tonight I think we got an excellent show for you guys. We got some interesting news that have come out of the Nancy Guthrie investigation. The abduction of Nancy Guthrie is probably a better explanation of what occurred there. And tonight we're going to have former FBI agent Jennifer Coffindaffer join our show, and we're going to talk about the ransom note. We're going to talk about what this could possibly mean as far as the investigation goes. Who, if anything, what can you tell about the abductor or abductors from the ransom note, and so much more. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You guys know what to do. Without further ado, let's bring in our special guest. How's it going, Jen? How are you doing tonight?
Hi, I'm doing great. How are you, DT?
I'm doing all right. A little cooler than it was earlier. Long story short, for those that don't know, my house was affected by a lightning storm, and so I'm dealing with an AC unit that's not working properly. And but I got a portable unit that I just went and picked up, so it's kind of cooling down now. It's crazy.
God. Well, you don't look like you're sweating, if that's any comfort to you.
Yeah. No, well, I just took a shower, the coldest one I think I've ever taken. And and my wife went and got one of those not a window unit, but a unit that you can put in that exhausts out the window. So it's working in here nice. It's the coolest I've been all day. I mean, but tomorrow my new HVAC unit comes in. So this will be no more after tonight. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. How have you been?
Good. It's been a busy day with some of these epiphanies with the notes. And I've just got to tell you, I've used epiphany more tonight than I've used in 5 years, all added together, that word. A lot of information I learned tonight. And so I'm really excited. I think the timing of the show is perfect, even though we planned this so long ago.
Yeah. We planned this a couple of days ago, and wasn't expecting something to drop, but I have a knack for pulling out things and then all of a sudden something happening. And what happened today was, or since yesterday, I guess, is some information about the ransom notes that were sent out to multiple news media outlets the day after Miss Guthrie disappeared, was abducted. One of the first things I want to ask you is, I keep reading and I keep hearing on all these news media outlets, etc., that this has been deemed credible by law enforcement. Have you seen law enforcement comment on this at all?
No particular words recently, but what we do have is their reaction. And we probably touched on this before. But when you see law enforcement pull together a family like this that's completely distraught, have BAU come in, write their scripts, and have them address not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 times these abductors in these very specific ways, it tells me that they believe these notes are real. But I agree with you. Everything that we're hearing now is source reporting, except somebody who read the note came out and laid it all out tonight that I had never heard before. That's what I said. I'm in epiphany mode right now.
Interesting. I haven't heard this. They read out the entire note?
Well, from their memory. They went over the whole second note. And I was like, oh my gosh, you have to be kidding me. Everything, let me give you some details. And I know you have your show plan, so you let me know if you want me to talk about this later.
No, go ahead. I'm all ears. I'm not familiar with it.
I actually needed to write down more notes, but they used the word we throughout. So more than one person involved. They specifically said it was an accident. They specifically pointed out that they were not aware of how serious her health conditions were. They pointed out that she indeed was buried in nature, as that's kind of the thing that's been said previously, but she specifically says that. And at the end, that in the note said, sorry, we did not mean this to happen. I'm like, wow. And there might be more I think about. That's literally from my memory right now. I just saw the clip and I was like, wow, I can't believe she's saying everything. And she has knowledge because she was at KVOA, one of the stations. She specifically goes over that. Now she's working for a social media.
Is it Brianna Whitney?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I saw her tweet.
Oh, I didn't see the tweet. I
have it pulled up.
Oh, good. I just saw her. What does she say in her tweet?
So this is the tweet. It says exclusive details with media reports surfacing about some of the information in the second Nancy Guthrie ransom note. I'm sharing all the details and context it includes after reading it myself during the reporting on the case. It includes confirmation of her death shortly after she was taken, not intending to hurt her, not understanding her health conditions and believing her death was heart-related, burying her with nature and apologizing, and an apology saying that there's nothing anyone could have changed the outcome. My issue with this is this guy here, as I see him approach, I don't see anything that says anything other than callous. I don't see somebody who would apologize.
Oh, I don't think he wrote this note.
I don't think so either.
And I don't think he's a lone wolf. I think there's other people involved in this, at least one other. And I also think this note still could be AI. And I also think this note could be their second language. And so as they're saying it in Spanish and then it's interpreting it in English, that might be some of the reason for this almost flowery, poetic, soft language.
You know, I didn't think about that way, but here's the other thing, right? So here's what TMZ had to say about it. And I found this to be weird or different than what Brianna said. I think I said her name right. I think it was Brianna.
Yeah.
Let's listen to what TMZ had to say about the second note.
I want to talk about Nancy Guthrie and some communications I've had with the FBI that I haven't talked about until now. But I want to start with these reports that this ransom letter that we received kind of apologizes to Savannah Guthrie and her family for the kidnapping, and that Nancy was no longer alive. That was not in the ransom note that we received. It is not in that ransom note at all. It does say that she's scared, but okay. But the ransom note makes no reference to Nancy Guthrie either dying or the kidnappers apologizing. Now, there is a reference to Nancy Guthrie not being alive anymore, but that is from the person who sent us multiple emails.
So it's kind of contradicting what the other media outlet got. Do you think that these were different notes?
I agree with you. It is so confusing. So I was on just a bit ago with Howard Bloom, who purportedly was the first one that even broke this. He went there to Arizona. If you look, and actually some people sent it to me and said, look, he broke this before anybody else broke it, like 2 or 3 days ago. He wrote an article in Airmail, which is the Vanity Fair editor. He wrote this article. And then that's when all of a sudden sort of everybody else is saying, my sources are saying, or whatever. So just to let you know, I didn't know that either. It was sent to me to just alert me to this fact. And then I ended up being on Howard Bloom tonight on a show on STS. And I agree with you. It was so confusing. And I'll tell you why it was so confusing, because on that show, Howard Bloom, who is, a really good writer, he wrote the Idaho book that a lot of people give a lot of credibility to.
I've had Howard on the show.
Yeah, that's right. You've had Howard on the show. So I'm sorry about that. I did know that.
That's okay.
I really am sorry. But nevertheless, he says in there that there's 3 notes that are legit. And I'm wondering if that's everybody keeps talking about 2. We know about 1 right after, and then we know about 1 on February 6th. And tonight he said there's a 3rd note. So I'm wondering if that's the confusion.
It could be. It could be the fact that there's 3 notes because they're different to the different news outlets. Lady Jane C comes in with $9.99 saying Jen has it 100%. In my opinion, the abductors failed her passing, not the intent, and paid up front by the ringleader to get Bitcoin at gunpoint. Jen said kids are recruited on the dark web to do this for quick money. She did. You did. You were the first person to come out and say, to my knowledge at least, that this was some sort of wrench attack.
And I got to tell you, that softness in the note, did they just get a compassionate couple to do this? I mean, I don't know. It's the whole verbiage in that. And I know you're going to get into it, so I don't want to interrupt you with your questions, but.
Well, I mean, I struggle with this note. There's just a few things that just bother me. Now, going to this tells me, if there are different notes, that if this was the abductor, that this wasn't planned. It seems like everything was orchestrated with the abduction. It seems like the ransom notes weren't, that they were a little bit more on the fly, especially if they're different to different news medias outlets. Does that say anything to you?
Well, I do think this. I think it was planned that this is how they were going to communicate and get the ransom. I really do believe that it was planned to send these notes to the media, to the local media. And when the local media did not respond appropriately, in their view, in terms of making this public, and the reason they wanted it to be public, I truly believe, was to put pressure on the family to pay. Pressure. And that is typical if it is organized. If this was organized and these 2 people, which, I've always thought it was more than 1, they're saying we throughout. And I know you're probably skeptical about, and I'm skeptic too. Just when you hear these notes, they just don't comport. They don't comport with going in there and taking an 84-year-old woman, the violence involved in taking anyone, but the callousness, as you opened up with, of taking an 84-year-old woman that just doesn't even have a chance to fight or a chance to make it through this, really.
And here's the part that doesn't really sit well with me. And let me pull this up. And that's this part. So shortly after the second note comes out, the Guthries come out forward and they have this statement. Let's play it real quick.
We received your message and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
So if the goal was financial, and I've said this from the beginning, I was like, man, just because she passed away doesn't mean that you can't capitalize on what you've committed. And especially if this is in my opinion, if this is a wrench attack and somebody else is forcing their hand, I don't think they're going to care one way or another. If, for instance, You have now the family saying, we're willing to pay just to have her back so we can celebrate with her. Why stop the communication even when they said they're willing to pay?
So it's such a great question. And this is what I think, first of all, if this is, and I don't want to term it a wrench attack, this would be an actual wrench attack by proxy, right?
Okay.
Nobody was going in there to beat up Nancy with a wrench to try to get, or, to beat her up to try to get the code, right? They needed her. So it's really, in a sense, a traditional kidnap for ransom. It's just they want crypto out of it.
Right. But what I'm saying is, if somebody recruited these people, or if somebody's forcing them to commit the crime, I'm sure they're seeing this, the persons that are behind this. I'm sure they're seeing this and saying, all right, we can still get paid.
Yeah.
Why stop it?
So all I know is this, at least in every one I've read about, these are true mopes and they are on their own accord. It's kind of like you're a contractor. You don't work for them per se because you're calling the shots. You're the one on the ground making the decision, right? So I think they come in all shapes and sizes. The one that hit in just hour and a half north, that's a 17-year-old and a 16-year-old kid that didn't even know each other. So you look at them and they have their own issues, right? They're too dumb to even check the house to see if other people are in there, or who knows what would have happened in that case. And then, so are we talking mopes in this case that are somehow a compassionate girlfriend of a mope? Was that written by a female? Are they able to hold on to this huge secret all this time? Obviously, we know something. If we're to believe Brianna, they didn't know how frail she was. They didn't get that intel. And that's another thing that leans toward the wrench attack by proxy, meaning it's somebody sophisticated, but they didn't do enough homework to really understand. And honestly, how would anybody know that? She's on the Today Show. Sure, she has a cane, but I think she was in really bad health. They said from the beginning, she cannot survive 24 hours without her medication. And I think she probably died within that 24 hours.
I agree. I definitely agree. And I think that you're right. The back door was what was propped open. My biggest thought and theory of that whole thing is that they underestimated her mobility. And that's why they had to change from going out the back door to out the front door. So by them saying that they, underestimated her health, that would align with what we see on the scene. So that's accurate. I still strongly believe that. In this case,
I agree with you on that. I agree that those doors were open specifically to take her out, and they were propped open because two of them were carrying her out. Listen, she was over 150 pounds of dead weight. And I don't mean she was dead, but she could have been struggling, panicking. This is a 2-person job. It is not a 1-person job. I don't care how big you are. We used to do this thing in the Bureau, and I don't know if you ever had to do it in your academy. It was called the fugitive crawl. So here we are in this gym, and there's this gigantic mat, like the biggest mat, that you can put in a gym is there. And the fugitive is in the middle of the mat. And the fugitive, in other words, the trainee, right? We're all trainees. We're on our hands and knees. And our goal as fugitives is get to the edge of the mat before the two agents get us. They each start in the far right and left corner. So I'm taken off. I still have a scar on my right hand from this. Wow. And we did it all the time, but I know exactly who gave me the scar. His name's Aaron. He became SWAT team leader in DC. They come after me, right? And then they get me before I get to the edge, and I am putting up the fight of my life, and they're trying to handcuff me. And they only have a certain amount of time to do it in by this rule of this game. My point is I'm 5 foot, not even 2, 110 pounds, and they could never get me handcuffed. Never do it with two on me. And you know this in law enforcement, and I know it in law enforcement. I mean, I've had in real life somebody in a full-on carotid hold that they should be out, but the fight is on. My partner gets there a little bit behind me. The fight is on. This is a full-on brawl. And it seemed like forever in this case. I finally get one handcuffed on and then literally dislocated his shoulder, just ratcheted him up. That was the only way I could get him to stop. But my point is, it's so difficult to handle people. And I know this was a two-manner. It had to have been two men.
I mean, it could have been. The one thing that I struggle with the two-person job is that there's blood going outside, and she wasn't somebody who was as active. And I feel that two people could have controlled her, Now, when it comes to this.
Oh, no, don't get me wrong. I do agree with you on that. I agree at the end of the day, porch guy has her like a sack over his shoulder. That's how I think, or held like this and she's face down. But
maybe, I mean, I'm looking at the blood and I actually have a picture of more of it. I actually had a video of it too. And one of the things that bothers me is you got a blood spot here, 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 and footprint here, footprint there, here, part of a footprint here, part of a footprint there, blood, blood, blood. That's not a lot of space in between the 2-3 footprints, not a lot of space between the blood, but all that blood is 90 degree. None of it is moving. So either this guy is carrying her and moving extremely slow, or he's helping her walk out of there.
I think he's carrying her. And I think the other guy went in advance and is in the car so that they can get away. I think by the time this has happened, with everything that's happened with her, she is easily controllable, because I think she was internally bleeding.
It could have been. I mean, I got a print here, and then right here, this has the same triangular look here. And then we have this that looks kind of like the same thing. And so you look at where the steps are. That's about a little bit, maybe 3/4 of an entire tile. This is about 90% of a tile. Those are and this is also the same foot. And so these are very small steps. So, to me, it just kind of, I don't know if he's going to be taking that. Like, I just think that if he's carrying her, those steps are going to be a little bit further apart. The blood drops are also going to be further apart because of the speed in which he's walking.
Well, I think right there what happens, and this has just been my view from the beginning, is he stops and he goes and he reaches and closes the door. And that's why you see that accumulation of blood in that specific spot. And likely, and look at, this guy was in no hurry. I mean, there's no signs that all of a sudden he would have been in more of an excited phase. At least to me, he seems like he doesn't have a care in the world during this thing. And I think he moped out with her just like he moped over to pull off the camera. What do you think?
I think he helped walk her out. I think he had a lot of trouble. I think if he's not left-handed, I think something's wrong with his right hand. Maybe he's injured, and that's why he's but somebody had brought that up to my attention, at that being a possibility, and I was looking at it. He does move his right hand kind of funny, and so that would be a reason also. But I don't know. I just think he's left-handed. But with this, I just think that if he's carrying her, that his steps are going to be a little bit wider. This, to me, just kind of really screams those drops are too close together, and they're 90-degree drops, meaning that they're not, the person that's walking isn't moving fast, who's leaving those drops behind, in my opinion. So I think that's the case. Now, him walking up there, I see callous. I see somebody who is arrogant, a narcissist. One of the things that I actually found out is, did you know that on the Nest camera, by looking at it, you can tell if somebody's actively watching it or not?
Let me see, on the Nest camera. So in other words, like on my Ring camera, And maybe it's just with the nest you're saying.
Well, I don't know about the ring, but the nest, what'll happen is if you walk up and it starts to record, there's going to be a solid green light. The minute somebody picks up the live feed, it starts to blink.
No, I didn't know that about the nest. I only have a ring.
That's what I think he's doing here. I think he's waiting to see if somebody's going to pick up the phone. Somebody's going to pick up the feed. That's why he doesn't have his backpack. That's why he doesn't have his gun on him. Somebody picks up, he's got to take off running to his vehicle. I think that's what he's doing. I think he's standing there, and I think he's waiting to see if somebody picks up the feed.
Because you think that this is the same day. And you and I have talked about this because I told you initially, I really felt that initially until all this conversation about the 11th came up, which made me think it could be a different day.
I found out something that law enforcement were actually asking all the way back to the 1st. But the problem is there wasn't a subscription. They had some difficulty from what it sounded like. In fact, they didn't get the other footage of somebody walking around, right? They only got the notification. So how much harder would it be to pull footage from weeks or even a month before?
Oh, I don't think they were able to get any other footage, at least that we're aware of, for sure.
Right. So that should be the same night, right?
I see what you're saying. Actually, I like that point a lot. Yeah. I like that point a lot. The reason I struggled with it was strictly because I thought it was too dangerous to get this close twice and ruin your whole operation. Risk getting caught, risk her seeing you, risk her calling the police, risk all of that just to go up and take a look. So I agree with you that this point has always bothered me. And the only reason I got off of this being the same night was when the 11th came out. But now when you mention it this way, I think you bring up such a valid point. Where's it? Where's the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th? Where's all the other days? Yeah. If they had so much trouble getting this date. Daniel, that's such a good point. I've never heard anybody bring that point up. And I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to do a tweet on that because attributing it to this conversation, because I agree. I told you last time my teeter-totter's been like this. You just flipped it over.
Yeah. And so what I think he's doing, if this is the same night, this is obviously before.
The shoes. Get me past the shoes, Daniel.
I think it's just the angle of where he's standing. I think that's the inside of his shoe. I do know what you're saying. Maybe perhaps he changed his shoes. Maybe he drove there. Well, think about it. If he drove there, and those are the shoes that he drove in, and he doesn't have the gun on his belt. He doesn't have the backpack on. If he drove there and he took the shoes that he was wearing while driving, I mean, he could track something in the house. And so maybe he thought about that. He went out there, he stood there, went back, put the other stuff on, put the shoes that he was going to walk into the house with. Or maybe perhaps he put on some booties and we just can't tell.
Yeah, I don't think this is a booty guy, meaning like a Brian Koberger studied crime scenes. He just doesn't strike me that way. And I think going back to Occam's razor, I don't think he would take the time to change out his shoes. Your angle point could be, I really need to study these photos, the feet even more, because I don't want any confirmation bias with me, because my initial view is two different shoes.
Excuse me. Sorry about that. I've got his ears out on that one.
I have to take a look at it super close because it does seem like different shoes. And
it does.
It does.
Well, I mean, let's see. Let's play this real quick.
But could it be that they were able to get more footage?
Look, there is a black, under, the sole of his shoe. You know what? I think I got actually a picture. I don't know if it's the best image. Well,
good, because I'm going to have to touch my nose to the screen to see that.
So there is black underneath. So it's not a booty, that's for sure. And then right here is where the black thing is on the inside of the shoe. This was covered, so you can't really see it. It did appear the first time that it was on this side, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know. This looks kind of weird right here. I couldn't tell you.
And maybe they said to Google,
I'll say this: there's like a black part right here for the tongue, like right where the top part is. So this is like an athletic shoe, I think.
but bring up that other one, that other shoe again, please.
And right here, there's some black part here, but is that the? It's hard to tell where that's from.
I struggle with that. I think you bring up a great point, but we don't know what the FBI asked for. I mean, maybe they were able to look beyond just the 31st, or I'm sorry, just the first. Maybe they were able to get footage of
That's
him.
black here.
Oh, I see that black. What worries me is the black up top.
Right up here.
Up top, yeah. And I think we would see it. See how it is on that.
See, I can't tell if that's right underneath the pant leg or if that's on the sole of the shoe. It's so pixelated.
It's pretty pixelated.
And then that's the other thing. Is it possible that it could be? I mean, it looks pretty definitive, especially on this side, that part of the shoe. It looks like you can tell that's the inside of the shoe. The only problem is on this video here, we don't have that. Let me see. I got another image.
We kind of have it on the definitely those
right
blacks.
Here. And that would be the inside of the shoe. It is so hard to tell, but that's the inside of the shoe right there. Because his foot is kind of cockeyed or kind of cocked to the side here. It is so hard.
It is hard to tell, but I think you bring up such a logical point that I haven't heard anybody else bring up about, wait a minute, how did they get this camera footage from other days?
Yeah.
Because
that
but
bothered me.
It bothers me thinking about it too, how hard it was to get it from the particular day they were looking at. Or did they get it from other days and this was the only other day that had an image of him? You know what I mean? The one without the gun in the backpack.
Yeah. I mean, it could have been. I know the backpack's the same. I mean, the jacket is the same because of the line that goes across. The sweater is the same. You know, it really does boil down to, are these the same shoes or not? And that other image is so pixelated and so dark. I don't know if what we're seeing could be, I don't know. Because, I mean, I don't see. Yeah, because even when he steps up, I don't see that black mark there.
Yeah, I guarantee the FBI knows. Not because I think they have timestamps, but because they would have enhanced these pictures and made them so much more pristine. Probably put them in color. I know other people have done that, and people have sent them to me, and they're like, can you post this? And it's not to impugn anybody's work. It's just I don't want to use anything unless it comes from the FBI. In terms of the enhancements to the pictures, I only use what I saw on Kash Patel's Twitter because I want to make sure I'm golden to that.
Oh, Steve is in the building. He said he sent me something. I got to look that up.
What is he saying?
He's telling me about the shoes. Oh.
What's he saying?
Oh, all right. He saw what I saw and boom. It's the same night. It is the same night. It's the same shoes. Give me a second. It is the same shoes.
We're going to have another, what am I going to say? For anybody who is still on for my channel, they've got to be exhausted because we were on 2 hours almost and then went straight to your show. So another epiphany if you end up proving that these shoes are the same.
Because I was looking at them and I'm like, it could be it. It could be it. Oh man, it's taking forever to download.
That's okay. We have a lot more to talk about, and
Yeah.
then when it's
So-
done, we can circle
So
back.
for me, going back to the ransom notes while I download this real quick. For me, the one thing that sticks out is these notes were sent to local media first. Is that correct?
Yes, 100%. 2 different stations, Tucson.
So would we agree that the person is probably local?
Yes, we both agree on that.
So do you think they would have access to be out there day one?
Access to be out there.
Like there was a lot of people outside of that house, you know, starting day one. Is it possible that somebody saw this crime on TV, especially if they're local, big media, somebody local? To me, I think this is the writer's female. I honestly think she's probably in the true crime community, not a creator, more likely possibly a fan, somebody who would be interested in true crime, something like this happening in their backyard, somebody that would be inspired to go out there. And maybe perhaps they saw the floodlight broken. Maybe they overheard something about the watch being on the ground, if they were that close and they were paying attention enough. To me, the first note doesn't come in for a full day. So it gives somebody the opportunity to also go out there and hang around, see if the floodlight is broken. I mean, if it came back, if it was sent to like other media outlets, etc., I'd probably be more inclined to believe it wasn't somebody local, but somebody local that first day, given it took a full day for a ransom note to come in. And already I think there were different notes being sent out, meaning I don't think that this person pre-wrote the letter that they were going to do. So I don't think they were like, all right, here's a ransom note. We've already pre-written it. So once we got her, we're going to send it out. We know who we're going to send it out to. You know, they took a full day.
Well,
What do you think about that?
couple of things on that. Well, so Pima County got there, noon it's called in. They're out there. I don't know if you have the exact time, but I've got the timeline pretty much down to they were there. Crime scene would have been there after about somewhere between 2 and 3.
Mhm.
And according at least to one report, and I think it was Nanos that said it, and I don't have that recording right here, but I thought he said they were out there for 20 hours. Now, I don't know if I believe that. I don't even know for sure if those are exact words. So I want to preface all this by saying, but basically he said they were out there through the night. And we have footage of him. It's pitch dark out there. And he said his search and rescue, he said this multiple times, they worked through the night. And we're giving him a rest and we're pulling him off. And they never put him back on. So I just want to say nobody really had access during the time crime scene's there. All these search and rescue things are going on. I don't think the crime scene was it wasn't maintained, but I don't think anybody really from the outside that wasn't in law enforcement or search and rescue was around there. And then the ransom notes come in right after that. They come in the next day. So really they're working overnight ransom notes. And then TMZ got theirs 12 hours later.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, that's interesting that it took them so long to send it out. I would have thought that would have been part of the plan before they would have gone out there. What are we going to do once we have her? Who we're going to contact? How we're going to contact? How much money we're going to ask for? How we're going to have it delivered? The whole
I think they thought about that because I think that's why they said we're going to have to do some things. We're going to have to take notes, smash the floodlight, or notice the crime scene, notice what's going on there, to make this note, legitimize their ransom demand.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think they did. So I think they took note of it and then they went back, settled in and wrote that note that really doesn't go by email, right? It goes into the inbox, like the, that you can send to media. In other words, you have a good idea about a story or whatever, you use their intake box. That's where these went to. It wasn't like they emailed somebody there. It went to the intake box. I think that is what really has me asking questions. Does that bother you? What made them think that would be a good way to do this?
Well, I think that the goal wasn't necessarily for the ransom thing. I struggle with that. I feel that if this was truly about financial gain, they would have contacted the Guthries. I think they would have found out. The Guthries would have found out about the abduction by the kidnappers, whether that's a phone call, whether that's a note, whether that's an email, whether that's a letter. I mean, Derek Cavella or whatever his name is figured out how to contact Annie.
Exactly.
I don't think it would have been difficult.
He got caught. That's
right, but this guy didn't know that. Now, once Derek gets caught, this guy stops talking.
Oh, I don't think that's the correlation. I think for me, so first of all, I truly believe that this is a mope. I think you don't think that. I think you think he's the man and the only man.
Well, I mean, if he is aware of, and I'm just assuming that he is, that the green light that's blinking is going to tell whether or not somebody's watching or not. And that's why he's so comfortable approaching and leaving and stuff. And maybe perhaps that's why he's standing here. And this is what Steve sent me. This is one of the pictures of, you can see the black on the shoe. And this is one of the images of that night of him walking. And then this is the still image where we see the black.
And then he just blew up that other image because we can't really see that.
Yeah. He lined it up. I'm not sure which image this is, but you see the black underneath the pant here and under the pant there.
Yeah.
And so it is the same shoes.
Yeah, there's no way he changed shoes.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Not anymore. I was just thinking that, if he's like overthought this, because I think Brian Koberger did, but Brian Koberger had a different background. Possibly. I don't think this guy's criminal justice. We don't know who this guy is. I don't think there's a criminal justice background here.
But that's a compelling picture. Thank you, Steve. That is a compelling picture because that's been one of the biggest reasons I haven't believed that this was 2 different days is the shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And now you really got me thinking. You got to email that picture to me.
I will. I'll email it to you.
My 3 glasses instead. I've only got my 2s on.
Yeah.
You don't even know what I'm talking about. You're too young.
So I think it's the same night. I've thought it was the same night, just kind of going and chewing it over in my head so many different times. Like, him going back a different night with the same mask, with the same, get up. And not leave something super big behind like DNA somewhere. It's crazy. Now, I'm not saying he didn't leave DNA behind. It just, the way it sounds, it doesn't seem like they have something concrete like DNA on a knife sheath left behind by the murderer and Brian Koberger. I don't think they have anything like that.
I don't either. And it doesn't really discount the fact that the 11th might still be an important night. They might know that from another reason. I mean, it's possible that it wasn't from this. They could possibly know that because of the neighbor. Remember the neighbor talking about that night? Yeah. Maybe that was the impetus for saying the 11th. And then Savannah Guthrie said the 11th. She specifically said it. I have the quotation where she said, please look at your cameras around the 11th.
Well, do you think, I know this from the G's because the Gonzalez family watched my channel. They watched a few others. Do you think the Guthries are watching these thoughts and theories and things of that nature? And do you think that maybe perhaps they got the 11th because they also saw that compelling video where they talked about the moon and it being a full moon on this night and not a full moon on the 11th, etc.? Do you think that maybe perhaps they saw that and were convinced by it?
So to your first question, I think for sure, I know I have a very specific instance, and I very specifically know for sure that the Guthries, at least in one instance, completely watched a show I did
Mhm.
because I got it circled back at me. So I'm sure, obviously, it's not just my coverage. There's a
Right.
lot of creators and law enforcement and so forth that are covering all of this. So I think it's very, I mean, I just think what I would be doing, I wouldn't be doing any of that myself. I'd probably be out there, trying to solve this thing if it were my mama. But having said that, I can't imagine they wouldn't be, you know?
Yeah.
I can't imagine that that once they're over sort of their initial pain, shock, where they can hold themselves together, that they would not be seeing possibly what others are saying or doing.
Yeah. And Steve is just dropping fire. He sent me the actual full image, so we'll be able to pull that up too.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull that up. To me, this ransom note stuff, like I said, just kind of going back, it doesn't, something don't sit with me on it. But I don't know. I don't know. And I'm glad that Steve did this too, because he did this inversion stuff, and that's one of the other things I wanted to talk to you about. Because tomorrow night I have monks. Sorry about that. Monk's Intrigue. He's going to be on the channel, and he did an interesting thing with the face that I wanted to get your opinion on.
I like him. I know who he is. I've seen his work, and I on not this case, on something else. And I remember thinking, oh, that's pretty cool. He's another very part-timer. Does shows, but very part-time. Okay,
Yeah.
This is from Steve again.
So this is the full image. Oops, wrong way.
But has he?
So this is when he's turning around to get the plants. That's where you can see also right here. It is just below the pant leg.
Yeah. I need to be working on what these shoes are because they're very unique.
They look like Nike. Nikes have like a swoosh, I believe, and that kind of resembles that along the side.
Inside swish. Those look like two black marks on the top.
That's true. That is true. It is interesting. It's on both sides.
I bet
Definitely on both sides.
the FBI already knows what they are. I bet you.
Yeah. Give us a like, guys. If you're watching this, give us a like. It'll help the algorithm, and please subscribe. Yeah, this is interesting. And so let me go back to this. So I think, yeah, I strongly suspect it's the same night. And I think that's exactly what he's doing, is he's waiting there. And that's why he doesn't have the backpack. And that's why he doesn't have the gun with him, is because if something happens, he's booking it. If somebody turns on the camera, he's got to leave, which tells me this is most likely, or definitely, probably not family. I don't think they would be doing that. This is definitely an outsider. Family
is out. That's just my opinion. You know what? I shouldn't say it like that, because I'm not trying to be, look, I have a total open mind. Whenever you show me evidence like this, and Steve is doing this, and different angles of this shoe, and I have not looked, like, that's what I was saying. I need to look at really every angle, but Steve has done that for us. Because my mind is wide open, particularly on this subject, whether it was the 11th or not. And it doesn't make almost no sense to me that they had so much trouble getting it from that night that they would have gone back and looked each and every night. Now, I have no doubt Google is doing that, but I'm talking about the post-haste 10-day photos that we got. They weren't at that point looking at all the others, because Kash Patel is like, listen, we need to get this out. And the minute he had it, he said, I think within 2 hours, he had it out. So I don't think they would have had time to go back and look the 30th, all the other days. I'm sure they're looking and have sense, right, to see if there's any. But that's what you said that just made the world of sense to me.
Yeah. And the other thing is too, like, going back to it being that night, uh, him going back a second time and things of that nature just kind of, like I said, it didn't sit with me. I'm going with somewhere with this, and it's slipping my mind. I don't want to forget it. I don't want to lose it. But to
I'll make
me,
it while you're thinking about it. If you look at all my original coverage, I said this is the same night.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
then when all the information came out about the 11th, and then I was bothered about the darkness in the back, in other words, the
Yeah.
moon, that really bothered me too. But
Yeah.
the more compelling information, I think, is the download from Google. And then now that these shoes match, because I will say I was bothered by the lighting, depending on exactly how it was shot.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. No, I do. Now, so if this guy, now I don't know if this is what he was doing. I just feel that he was comfortable, that he knew nobody was watching, right? Does that say anything to you? To me, that screams that this is a techie kind of person. To me, I asked myself the question, like, who would know that? There's only a few people that would know about the blinking light on the Nest camera. That's either going to be somebody who owns one, somebody who sells them, or somebody who competes against them, and a competing person would be like a ADT salesman or something like that. And I'm not saying that that's who it is, but if I was a salesman and I was selling, drunk turkey alarms, and I knew that the Nest system you can tell by just looking at it that it blinks if somebody's watching it or not, that would be a selling point to me. I'd be like, hey, if you don't watch it and somebody's coming up and they want to, break into your house, they will know whether or not you're looking at it or not. What
I
do you
just,
think about that?
I think it's an interesting idea, and it possibly could be true, but I don't believe that we could ever know that that's what stalls him out. Maybe he literally is going up there to see, are there any lights on? Do I see any shadows? Does it look like her nightstand light is out? Or it could be a number of things, including what you said. But I think the more important or most important takeaway is if it is that same night, he wasn't comfortable being kitted out, getting out with his gun initially, that he did some recon first up close, and then he went back and got it.
So I'm going to bring back this then. So obviously he was there way before 1:47 a.m. If that was him, because that's him without the backpack and without the gun. So we can assume for a moment that that's the same night, then he was there much earlier than 1:47, if this is correct. Now,
There.
they put out there that at 2:12 a.m. that software detects a person on camera. Don't you think it would be important to the public, especially for those that are looking at their camera system, to know the first time somebody's detected on camera? Because if he was there at 1:20, that makes a huge difference if somebody's driving around at 1:10 versus if they're thinking that he had just gotten there at 1:47. Doesn't that kind of throw off the timeline? Wouldn't you want to put a more accurate timeline of the exact moment you think he was there?
They don't have it, Daniel, because the timestamps are completely separate from the photographic images they pulled. It's a completely different data point.
Well, they have this one at 2:12 that the software detects a person on camera.
That's from the roof.
Mhm.
That's from the roof. That
I
has
agree.
nothing to do with this camera. And remember, that one, they didn't take the camera. Bad guy didn't jump up there and snatch that camera down. The FBI took him later.
Well, I'm
So
not sure if the camera is going to store that information. I think that's going to be on the cloud, whether somebody's detected or not. Don't you think?
no, I think there could have been a chip in there. It's something we should look at. But I've always believed that was because the camera was up. They could actually put their hands on the camera. They removed that camera, and they have that. And any hard drive, any chip, because that's why he took the camera, because he knew Nest would store that. And that's why he had to take it for two reasons, right? Now it's not recording, but he had to also take it because of a hard drive that could exist within the camera. That was always my belief. And that the 212 time frame is him going around that house is the 212 time frame.
You know, I saw something that was interesting. I was watching, let me see if I can pull it up. I don't know if I have it anywhere. Let me see. I may or may not. Where is it?
At least you're not clicking.
I don't have it anymore. I think I closed it. I had you know what? I think I know where I could find it. I had a video of, I went back and I was just kind of curious, and I was watching the drone footage from the house, and there was something I noticed. There's a camera on top of the guest house facing Nancy's garage door. Did you ever notice that?
The only two I recall that were out there, I thought, as memory serves, I can see in my mind the one that the FBI agent is removing. And then I thought there was one further down. I don't recall seeing one on the guest house roof. Not because it wasn't there. I just don't recall ever seeing that footage.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to see if I can find it.
Maybe Steve will send it.
He might. He's got everything. I was looking at it earlier, and I was like, man, is that a camera right there? And it bothers me because, oh, here it is.
I knew you would find it.
Yeah, it bothers me because, so let me pull it up. It's going to be, close this right here. It's going to be right here. Is it playing? Oh, let's see. It's right in between here. It's going to come down. So right here at the very bottom, there it is, right there. You see it? Yeah, that camera is, there's the solar power, the solar deal, and there's the camera facing towards the garage. I also noticed.
Up on that?
What was that?
Can you close up on that? Looks like a camera to me.
Yeah, it definitely does look like a camera to me as well. Let me see. I know how to do that. But yeah, and I thought it was interesting because, like, the reason I thought it was interesting was because, well, if this is another camera here, how in the heck did this one not capture him?
Well, remember, and that's your philosophy, right? That they came out on that side, that the car would have been parked on that side. That's not necessarily my philosophy, but I know it is your philosophy. On that.
Well, I mean, we know he left there was a pot outside there, right there near the gate, that was kind of left there. I think he may have left that gate open, which, by the way, is missing in a different, so it's there on this drone footage, but it's missing on other drone footage. It's the pot itself that was out right by the gate.
What's the time frame? So you're thinking law enforcement?
I think law enforcement picked it up.
They picked that up and forgot the mat? Stop it.
Well, he stepped on the mat. He didn't touch it. I would have thought they would have taken the door frame and everything else. I think they think that he may have actually touched this. Let's see. Okay. No, I got a video of it, a picture of it.
Take a pencil and put it in your mouth and tell me your saliva glands don't. Right now, everybody in the audience, you could tell I'm almost getting punchy. I have Spicy Jen, which Spicy Jen isn't out tonight, but Punchy Jen is. Put it in your mouth. Yeah. You start salivating right when you do. And that light and his glove and holding that and then putting it down and then putting it up. I think that was one of the best chances. Not that they would have done it for sure, but the best chances of having his saliva was on that mat. But interesting, they took the pot. I'm glad they took the pot.
I'm glad they did too, because it's there and then it's missing. And so to me, I think that means that they most likely see it's in this one. And then I was looking at a different drone footage and it's not there no more.
Whoa, see, that's another good find of yours. I'm telling you, this is epiphany night for me, because there's those shoes that I'm going to go back and relook at really closely, just like Steve did. And then now there's this pot situation. Do you have the other one without the pot?
Yeah, I got to look up the drone footage. I was looking at it earlier and I was like, where's the pot at? And
that's such a good, it's a good find, because, you know, it tells you that, well, it tells me this. Why, if he had gloves on, do they care more about the pot than they care about something he was salivating over? It's confusing to me. But again, they have so much more than we have. With that camera being on that pot.
Oh, you know what? It's the camera's still there. I have another one where the camera's gone, but the pot is already gone here too. It's no longer there. Now, if I felt like he touched it, and just like you said, he had his hand in and out of his mouth, it should be, you know, there should be some DNA on there.
Well, and the other thing they could be thinking is, look, because he had that bite light, everything he touched after, when he's taken that out, saliva on the hands could have been transferred to, on the gloves, transferred to various things. And so they're probably, he picked that pot up and moved it. Right?
He could have used it to move it. He could have used it to try to pry open the door or keep the door propped open here. But that would mean, and again, the back door back here was propped open, pot right here. If he's exiting and coming out this direction, let me see if that image ever downloaded. Let me pull that up real quick.
We've got the late night crowd in tonight.
Yeah, here it is. I've been getting better. So there it is. There's the what I assume is the camera facing right at.
This looks like a camera to me.
It does, and then right there, what it's attached to is a solar panel.
Exactly. It looks like, now we don't know whether, for instance, in my house in the Virgin Islands, I had faux cameras around it completely, but not one of those cameras worked.
Well, I mean, she wanted to capture, but she wanted to capture wildlife on the side of her house and stuff. That was what she had posted in the neighborhood app. So so this wasn't as a deterrent for, like, in my opinion, based on what she said, it wasn't a deterrent against thieves. It was more so to capture wildlife.
Totally agree with you. Absolutely. Saw the post, agree with you. But that was when she was talking about the Nest camera system. Are all of these nests?
That's true. I don't know.
Could this have been a camera? She had this house for 50 years. All I'm saying is this looks like one of those older cameras, like those faux cameras I had. Although if it were a faux camera, it wouldn't be hooked up to and I saw that solar energy source, you know, but I'm just saying, I thought that was a newer thing she got. Could these have been older ones not working? We don't know, but that does look like a camera.
It does. It really does. And I know that the Nest camera was around 2021 because that's when she put the post up. But you're right. These could be older. These could be not some that don't work, etc. You know, one of the things I noticed, though, is that they're not damaged. That one nor the other one facing the yard, which led me to believe that this person didn't see him or notice him.
The FBI didn't see him or notice him. They went and got him on day 4. I'm not trying to put on law enforcement. I'm just trying to say that they didn't see him or notice them. So no way did Porch Guy see them or notice them. Look, now we know, if we believe these letters, they didn't even know that Nancy was infirm to the degree she was. Yeah. Totally underestimated, which is something all of us, a huge number of us, have said. And I think you have too. They underestimated this was some sort of medical event that occurred, in my opinion, the minute they blindfolded her and threw her in that trunk was the beginning of her demise. I still think she was alive through when the first note was sent, which just was the next.
Well, maybe so. The first, that one. I'm curious of the accuracy of a pacemaker event happening that night. If there was, then I don't know. I don't know if she survived more than maybe not even the entire thing. Um, just getting out of the property. I don't know if there was some issues there.
She
Uh,
couldn't have had expirated blood without being alive.
True, but I mean, I don't know if she survived getting out of the neighborhood. Perhaps, you
Oh, I
know.
see. I mean, if she's in the trunk and
Yeah, I don't know if she survived the ride. Put it that
I
way.
just, I don't think so. Based on the ransom notes, what do you think? But based on the ransom notes, if they sent the first one with a ransom demand and saying she was alive, right? In other words, ransom, no proof of life, but saying she was alive. And then when she dies, they send out that note on February 6th. Why wouldn't they have said that earlier? Why would they have waited? This is what makes me think she was alive. And then at the point at which she died, for whatever
Right.
reason, they seem to feel bad, which makes no sense to me unless there was some odd translation error in that note
Well,
or
I mean, there's a lot of things that don't make sense with it because one, they took a full day to do this, and then they sent it out to multiple media agencies. They also got the Guthries to say that they would pay even if she is no longer with us just to get her back, and yet that didn't come through or fruition. Um, to me, that's the part that bothers me about this whole thing is that uh, and I know you mentioned that the Guthries that they looked at it and they thought it was real. Could that be that the reason why they looked at it is because they were adamant because of they wanted to look at it? I mean, TMZ brought it out now, and brought it up. And so to me, I think that maybe perhaps the Guthries and Savannah Guthrie is not just your normal citizen. She's got wealth, she's got lawyers, she's got a lot of things. I think she's got pull and power. I think that if she demanded it, that she would be able to see it. Do you think that could be why they showed it to her versus, maybe perhaps they did think it was legitimate? What do you think?
I think they showed it to her for this reason. If this is my case and I am asking this family to make the biggest decision they will ever make in their life, and that is about the life of their mother, they have to know everything about the case at that point, or else I've done a bad job as an agent. I have to sit there across from that family and say, this is everything we have. This is what they've said. This is our investigation in full at this point. And personally, for me, I would also have pulled, just like I've done in this case, because I'm following it so close, all other type wrench by proxy, meaning they want Bitcoin. All other cases where people paid without proof of life and didn't pay without proof of life and what those outcomes are. I would have that for her too, just like I've done on the show. And I would say, you guys, for all of them, you all are going to have to make this decision, but this is your intelligence palette to work from.
Right. Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. It's just, it's very contradicting to what they're saying and what they're doing. The actions was that they took her callously. They didn't care about her medications. They didn't care about her well-being. And even in the first ransom note, according to TMZ, there was a threat to take her life.
Yep.
And yet that changed on a dime. And they come forward, and saying, all right, she passed, no foul, no done. We're not going to talk no more. We don't want to do this anymore. That's what it sounded like. Am I wrong?
No, but now you're looking at the death penalty on the table. Now you don't have 6 million or 4 million, depending on when they would have paid, right? Let's just go with the 4 million. You don't have the 4 million in your pocket. You've got a dead woman, the mother of Savannah Guthrie, this famous case. Everyone knows about it. And you're looking at the death penalty in Arizona. If it were a kidnapping and then, you get your Bitcoin money and then you send a communication back to TMZ and say, she's in the white Airbnb in
But that's
Scotland.
dangerous, though. I mean, that's dangerous to send back another letter, another note.
No.
Why even comment to begin with?
Because they can't.
Even if she died.
What do you mean? Sorry.
Why even email if she passed away and they freaked out and they're like, all right, this definitely wasn't the plan. Now we're looking at murder, etc. Why even messaged anybody back? Why not just disappear? I mean, they disappeared right afterwards. They felt compelled to tell them that she passed.
The only thing I can make sense of it, because there's not much I can make sense of here. It's incongruent.
I agree.
The fact that they say it is an accident. I'm wondering if later on when they get caught, that they say, see, I told you from the beginning this was an accident. We didn't know how sick she was, that this was never supposed to be this. So how I see it as a possible explanation in advance for when the hammer comes.
I mean, I get that. My camera there. I get that, but
like, did you not like that idea, Turkey? You just went
no. I had to switch positions.
Camera's messed up too.
There you go.
Oops.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's just like everything that they say and what they do are contradicting. You know, they take her in the dead of the night, quietly, silently, and they make a huge spectacle. They claim that they're going to take her life. You know, the first ransom note seemed callous as the person walking up there. You don't give us the money, she's gone. And then 5 days later, they come up with this story where I think anybody would have reasonably assumed, given that amount of time, without the medication, without everything else that she had going with her, which was public at that point, you know, very well public that she needed her medication, etc. Then they come up with this, oh, she passed away, you know, nothing you can do about it. She's buried with nature, etc. It just doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. It don't fit. It's like putting a round peg in a square hole or vice versa. And it stinks.
Not if you're a mope. If you're a mope and you have this grandiose idea of how you're going to do it, somehow you get the lead to do it. Right? If there's one of two ways, right? Either, and well, there's three possibilities, but at the end of the day, I truly believe there's nothing that I 100% believe this was a kidnap for ransom gone bad. The further outlying part of that, whether that was somebody sophisticated who put them on to her, or whether that was, you know, a freaking gardener from 5 years ago that said, oh, blah, 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 blah. This is a great target for you because Savannah's the mom. So that's what I'm down to in terms of thinking through this. I'm only down to one of those two options. So if it is the gardener scenario, right, that tells somebody, and I'm just thinking back to all these cases I had. So let me give you an example. There was this neighborhood, very, very affluent. I mean, Tiger Woods played golf there. Multiple golfers lived in this neighborhood. KJ Choi lived in this neighborhood, all these people. And they were having a rash of break-ins, one after another. And the reason they were having this rash is when you looked closely, it was because there was one maid that was affiliated in one way or the other, right? This maid, the cousin, whatever, they all kind of cleaned all of these houses. And they didn't even do anything, but they told like a brother or cousin, I can't remember because it's been too long ago. And that was the person that actually was doing the crimes. Right? So it was the relative. And look at the jewelry heists of all the rich players, Kelsey and Travis Kelsey and Mahomes. And then that whole, remember when they all got their jewelry stolen? I remember being on Chris Cuomo about that. And I said, oh, this is a ring. He said, do you think they're related? I'm like 100% related. This is a orchestrated at a higher level because this is just isn't dumb luck that these are being targeted when they're playing, you know, and they finally cracked that and they finally got it through the fence, right? When it came to and then they traced back. And sure enough, it was a very organized ring. And it made sense to me. This is just one attack, right? So we don't know if it's really an organized ring, but it fits a lot of those parameters. And depending on your mope, the only trouble I have is how did they end up with a mope that is so, has this big conscience? How did that happen?
Well, I mean, I don't know. And again, I don't think he has a conscience. I'm watching him walk up there, knowing what he's about to do, knowing he didn't take her medication, knowing that he took an elderly woman injured out, didn't leave her at the hospital, didn't leave her at the ER, didn't do anything like that, took her with her. And then the threat was there on the first, we're to believe that these are real and they came from the same computer. The very first email wasn't like, sorry, it was, if you don't give us this money, we're going to take her life. And that's what TMZ reported, that there was a threat to take her life in the first ransom note. Mm-hmm. So, it's a pretty big change in heart, so to speak.
It is a big change in heart, but that's when they have something they can leverage.
Now, go ahead, sorry.
Alive, right?
Possibly. I mean, here's the thing. If these are the real people, I wouldn't believe 90% of what's in it. I wouldn't believe 90%. Now, is she passed? Probably. How she passed, if she's buried, the fact that they put she's buried is probably inaccurate. I would say that there's probably a lot of inconsistency, a lot of minimization, and a lot of inaccurate statements in whatever it is that they wrote. I highly doubt they're being 100% truthful, especially if this is the real abductors.
Turkey, it is late at night, and just call it what it is. Those notes are complete BS. I
agree. That's what I think. Well, I think that there's a world that they're possibly real. I just think the notes were sent to a local place. The person is local. They had access to getting out there day one if they wanted to. If they wanted to drive out there and be there, could they have seen something like the floodlights broken? Could they have overheard somebody saying that? Overheard something possibly? And that's the part that sticks out to me, is like, all right, they're local, and if this is fake, let's just say it's fake. If we were to go down that assumption that this is a hoax, so to speak, or somebody trying to profit off of what's going on here.
Because is that what you think? I mean,
I'm like 50-50.
I've given up what I think. But yeah, I'm still down that road because I want to be open-minded about these possibilities. Right. So that
I just feel that if it was legitimately a ransom, I think that there was the opportunity of who they contacted seems weird. They contacted the media, pretty much guaranteeing law enforcement involvement, pretty much guaranteeing of a spectacle, all eyes on this, everybody's going to be watching, etc. They contacted multiple news media places, which is weird. I mean, if your point was to get to Nancy, why not just message Nancy's affiliate, the one that she works for, NBC? You'll make sure you get it and you don't have to involve anybody else. The second thing is that they agreed to pay even though they weren't going to get her back alive. And they knew that. They said, we want to celebrate her. We want to do this. Now, they don't have to be honest and say, all right, we'll give you her back. All they got to do is say, all right, give us this amount of money and we'll tell you her location, get the money and disappear like they did. And so to me, that just doesn't sound right. Now, to me, the wording and things of that nature sound very feminine. I was talking to my Discord group last night. I was like, man, I wouldn't be surprised if this is somebody who is like, good at research, good at looking up things. And you can't put, what some of these internet sleuths can do, what the things that they can look up is pretty insane and pretty crazy. Plus, you have somebody that would have had to have been interested in true crime, interested in enough to go out there day one, to be out there to see some of these things, maybe even overhear something. And I just wonder if that's the case, did somebody go out there and overhear or see something from their vantage point day one and then come up with some kind of idea? Because at the end of the day, also with the multiple, multiple notes that aren't the same, It seems like they're different. So it seems like that wasn't planned. That seems like that was something that was happening in the moment. Versus, giving the same exact, ransom note and just sending it to different places. So those things stick out to me. And, I don't know if law enforcement came out and they themselves said that we still believe that these are from the abductors. I think I would be more inclined to believe it, but they haven't come out and said that. And I think they may have thought that to be the case in the beginning. But I think that if the law enforcement continue to think that they were real, I don't know. I mean, I think we'd see more movement. I think TMZ would know for a fact instead of saying law enforcement thinks they're credible. I think the FBI would have done a lot more efforts into trying to figure out where they came from.
I think that they've spent, so I'm going to counter a few of your points.
Okay.
As far as when the notes came out, that is well within the time frame in all kidnappings, 72 hours, 48 hours typically. But notes come out within 24 hours is well within the time of a legitimate ransom note, just statistically speaking, 24 hours. On your other point about contacting the locals and then TMZ, you contact them through this way, through this inbox, to not get caught. Because if they text, if they call, if they contact any other way, I think they are at least in fear that that's going to be traced. In terms of why contact media when they know it's going to bring on law enforcement, and law enforcement was already there crawling on it, except for in the hours between the abduction at 2:30 and noon, I suppose, when they came out. So they would have had some time to contact, but again, that isn't how they chose to contact. And I've been studying this because there are other cases where media was contacted, and it's pretty rare, but I personally think it's the new age of cryptocurrency type attacks. I think they're going to want to get their ransom paid in Bitcoin because it's much more difficult to trace. And then they're going to also use media as intermediaries more so they don't get traced. And remember, to me, the thing was public pressure on the Guthries to pay. Your final point, though, is a really interesting point, because your point being why, when you got the fish on the line, you have the Guthries saying we'll pay without even having a dollar amount posed. Why do you let the fish off? Why do you just, why do you throw in the rod? And I truly think that when she died, they totally panicked. And for some reason, and this is the one I can't figure out, is somebody of these two or three, however, felt some sense of remorse over what they did. And I truly think it's not that they necessarily felt it, but they're trying to use it for later. If the hammer comes down and they're arrested, they could say, see, it was an accident. See, we felt sorry. We felt sorry from the beginning, blah, blah, blah. Just look at our letter here.
It's possible. I mean, the one thing that you bring up that I think is probably the most likely scenario why you contact the media is for the pressure. I think when you mentioned that, as you were mentioning that, I was like, all right, that makes sense. That'll pressure them to pay it. That'll pressure law enforcement because, it's known that there's a ransom and that there's a possibility of them, getting her back alive. So that makes sense. You mentioned that you think that it's more than two people or one person.
Yes.
Outside of them saying we in these ransom notes, what makes you think that? Is it the antenna?
The we issue, the antenna issue, the fact of her weight and size, knowing how difficult that is to manipulate somebody in that weight and size, no matter how big you are. I actually did a little film on that, showing my husband when I was trying to talk about do you know the Celeste Rivas case? I'm sure you've
I
covered
do.
it. Yeah. So in that case, there was this big point whether David acting alone, whether he could put her in the trunk and whether he could put her in the trunk hole.
Mhm.
And so I'm almost the exact same size of Celeste Rivas. Obviously, she's 70 pounds when she came out, but going in, she was about 110, 5'1". And so he, who's 5'11", 170, and works out every day. I'm not trying to say he's this big hulk of a man, but he's strong. He stuffed me in this gigantic bag that we got, like a huge, huge trash bag. Have you not seen this? It's kind of funny. And
Oh, yeah,
then
yeah, I have.
tried to put me in the Tesla trunk. He could not even pick me up because it was so awkward.
Yeah.
And then there was no way I could fit in that trunk without my limbs being off. And then, of course, it turns out they had cut her limbs off. But that's just common sense stuff, right? And so I think a lot of these cases are that. And when I look at this, I know how difficult it is. Who's driving the car? I don't like this antenna. The notes now mention we. And typically these guys just don't work alone. They want somebody else to be part of their criminal activity.
I don't disagree with you that, you know, there could be somebody else. I struggle with it because nobody's talked about anything. And clearly you have somebody, if these are two different people, you have two different thought process, one more callous, one of more remorse. They don't mention anything. They don't talk to anybody. They don't say anything by accident or whatever. So, you know, I just feel like the more people involved, and especially if you have somebody who this is eating at their consciousness, or they're conscious, that you have more than likely a person that's going to talk. And, you know, if that was eating at their conscience to the, you know, on February 5th when they submitted, or February 7th when they, you know, sent out that second ransom letter, you know, how's it feeling now? Now, this part I find interesting. I don't think that's an antenna. I think that's too wide. And if it is an antenna, I don't think it's an antenna to a walkie-talkie. Because if it is, there is no walkie-talkie that I can find that has a side antenna. Every walkie-talkie that I find has an antenna on top. And cannot find one that has a side one. I found some Wi-Fi jammers with a side antenna, but not a walkie-talkie. And if this is a walkie-talkie, it's standing straight up, and this has to be the smallest walkie-talkie I've ever seen.
So I sat there, and after I, you know, discovered this, which was another epiphany moment. I don't know why I'm stuck on that word tonight. It was another big moment for me. I pulled up Walmart because I thought, listen, this is a Walmart guy. Walmart hoster, likely. He's Mr. Walmart. So what walkie-talkies, two ways, do they have at Walmart? And I found about 3, as I recall, and I have pictures of them, and I did a whole show on it, of these little bitty walkie-talkies with these little antennas coming up, just like that. So
I got to see them. I've not been able to find any of them.
You got to look at
it. And does it have a wide antenna? Because this is a very wide antenna.
It was a wide antenna. I wonder if I can find that exact picture.
Yeah, because this is a wide antenna, and this is like partially sticking out. I think, me personally, I think this is something with more solidness to it. In fact, let me show you. I got a video of him walking with it. So let's see. This is, I have it slowed down. This is it sticking out of the jacket. Man, I'm telling you, I think this is a pouch. I think this is a pouch.
What do you mean a pouch?
I think this is like a leather pouch, and it just looks that way because of the opening of the pocket. The opening of the pocket is curved in a manner that it makes it appear like it's an antenna. I struggle with this being an antenna. I struggle that all the movement, him bending down and stuff, that it doesn't move, doesn't stick out, doesn't fall out. doesn't turn, doesn't do anything like that. And then when he turns to his side here, you can kind of see inside there. And I don't know. I mean, I got images. I got still images that we can go through. So this is him turning. This is something sticking out, possibly a tag, which if it's a tag, I don't know what tags, the walkie-talkies. And as you can see, the quote unquote antenna goes up to about right here. And I mean, this is a tag. That's not a lot of space for the base of an antenna. I mean, base of a walkie-talkie.
You didn't think that tag was from the jacket itself? And I don't know.
It could be, but the tag itself is the same length between the end of the pocket right here to the bottom of the jacket. And so a tag's like that big, maybe about that big. How big of a walkie-talkie does he have? That's the problem that I have here.
I thought they were little. It was one of those little bitty walkie-talkies. I got to find this walkie-talkie picture.
And whatever it has, look at that, it has some girth to it. Look at how it manipulates his sweater here. Look at that.
Yeah, I agree.
And so it's something with girth. It's something heavy. It's something that's going probably the entire length of the pocket.
I'm going to show you my walkie-talkies.
All righty. I mean, and if you find if you find these little walkie-talkies, and I mean, I might change my mind on it.
Well, you made me change my mind on your shoes. I tell you, my mind is going. One of the biggest problem I have right now is no matter which way you cut it, if you believe my philosophy that this was a true kidnap for ransom gone bad, and whether it was structured, in other words, more organized, like a wrench by proxy, or the other way, it's Gardner who told somebody about this and they decided to, Dumb and Dumber go out and do this. And by the way, they've been very successful. Dumb and Dumber have. Mm-hmm. But okay, that is not, gosh dang it, that's the scanner I found. I don't want this. I'm
going to answer a couple of these live chats real quick. So I want to say,
yes, I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Thank you to Finding the Lost. Thank you to Kim, Not Your Cup of Tea. Thank you to Cuff You for being here. Lady Jane C, we read this one earlier. T-Bird 67, Lady Jane C. And then we have S Dubs coming in with the two of you are a great combo. Jen, you are amazing. You too, Daniel. Hit the like button. Thank you. Bias Bez King. Cankles?
Oh, I love those. Bias. Yeah, I know her. I don't know her, but I just know her from here.
Bias Bev's Cankles. That's hilarious. Why didn't they remove the porch cam from inside?
I don't think there was one. People say there's a camera inside. Do you know anything about that? Because I do not.
I am not aware of a camera inside. But I'm not aware of one. Yes or no?
Okay. I specifically recall, and I need to find it, Nano saying there wasn't any cameras inside. There weren't any cameras inside, to use better English.
Nina Drew comes in with 99 cents. Hill Days comes in with 199. Nina Drew, another 99 cents. Another 199 from Nina Drew. Golden Hen says, if she was alive or dead, everyone thinks she is close to the area where she lived. Why couldn't they pick her up on the pacemaker? It's a good point.
No, remember, the pacemaker doesn't go far. Do you mean the sniffer?
I think they had like drones and stuff trying to fly around in the area to see if the pacemaker connected.
Yeah, but did you study that at all? I looked, you had to be so close to her to pick that up. I mean, that was just a shot in the dark. Oh, good.
Yeah, I got it up here and we'll look at that one. But Golden Hen says, do you think they are saying that in case they get caught, like as a defense, like we told you that we didn't mean to kill her? Me personally, no, I don't think that this, when I look at this person, I read a lot of like calluses, probably, there's no urgency. There's no sense of urgency. He's not walking up there fast. I feel like it's almost a show. the way he looks down, the way he approaches, the way he has the gun on his crotch, all those things. And so to me, this guy reads very much narcissist, very much probably psychopath, to have no remorse, have no feelings, no, he knows what he's about to do. And yet he doesn't seem moved by it. Like it seems like he's like, if he's going to work, like this is something he's done multiple times before. So do I think that they've created a defense? No, I don't think so. I don't think he thinks he's going to get caught. How common, and I've never seen it, but I've never done probably as many investigations as you have, but how common is it for somebody to commit a crime and during the commission or shortly after the commission of that crime come up with a defense like that before getting caught?
Oh, a lot of people do that in different sorts of investigations too, especially like white collar investigations, where they sort of plan out. They do a good job of planning evidence, typing in evidence, murder cases, so that it looks.
Well, I mean, that's right. That's trying to get away with it. This would be like a lesser sentence. Like, how many times have you heard of somebody plotting before they got arrested of trying to figure out how to get a lighter sentence?
Well, I don't know a lighter sentence, but definitely where it wouldn't involve a murder. To me, this is something trying not to be indicted for first-degree murder.
I mean, at the end of the day, somebody died during the commission of a felony. I'm pretty sure, regardless of whether or not they intended to kill her or not, given her age and how they took her, kidnapping is probably one of the more grievous or aggravated circumstances for felony murder. So it doesn't make a difference whether or not they thought so. And again, them knowing that and not knowing that doesn't make a difference. It's just, I get it, but I mean, at the end of the day, if they're really trying to go into, hey, if we say this, I don't know if they look that up. I don't think they're going to find a positive answer for themselves.
I agree, but I don't think these are attorneys. I mean, I think these are mopes. Like I said, I don't know whether they're mopes with somebody else pulling their strings that is really high or somebody mopes. But I think the fundamental difference that you and I have with this case is I truly believe this was a kidnap for ransom one way or the other. But you believe this is somebody closer that has some grievous action.
I think that this is somebody who isn't right in the head, and whether they think they have a reason or rhyme or reason, it may not make sense to anybody else, but they probably have one in their head. I think there's three camps, right? I think there's one camp where it's the family's involved. That's one camp. Camp two is probably like, where you're at, kidnap for ransom, and that this was possibly more than one person and an orchestrated event of some kind. And then there's where I think I lay in. I lay in the fact that I think that this guy might be more intelligent than we give him credit for, and may have some sort of fantasy attributed to it, whether that's sexual or whether that's revenge, whether that's anger, fear, whatever the case may be. There's an emotion to it that's not normal, and it's not one that like that is like what's the word I'm looking for? Not an emotion where like a remorse, but an emotional thing where it's a fantasy. Think of BTK, think of Brian Koberger. I strongly suspect that this guy, just so much about what he's doing screams, to me at least, that he that this is a very callous person, and that they the flowers and everything else just kind of, I don't know. I mean, we'd have to believe that this guy's really dumb, for everything else. And man, how bad are law enforcement to not be able to figure it out if he's that much of a mope?
Well, I think he's that much of a mope, but he did a lot of things right. And the biggest thing he did right was strike a very, very easy target in the middle of the night with absolutely no lighting. And, I just picture him driving with the lights off not being picked up by any cameras in the middle of the night, not very many people out at all, and finally getting to a point of egress that I think is going to be the only point where law enforcement is going to be able to make heads or tails of the vehicle. And that's a lot of work. Do you know what did that make sense? If there's 4 egresses, you got to follow each one. And then each time one trails off, you got to follow that one and this one and that one until finally you get to, but there's not going to be that much traffic at that time. But
Right.
you got to follow all of that. And somebody's got to be and you have to acquire all those cameras. And then you have to hope that the picture isn't so dark that you can make something out. But it's sooner or later, it's got to come out. The car has to come out of this little area unless, and what is it, the 15 miles within most people who are murdered, abducted, if they're dead, they are discarded within a 15-mile radius. That's the
Interesting. I didn't know that.
stats. So,
And so this is the little walkie-talkie. I mean, I think that the base of the walkie-talkie is bigger than the antenna on this one, don't you think?
the base is bigger than the antenna, but that's
Wow.
exactly like the antenna I saw. But I found 3 of them that are kind of similar.
Okay.
Very.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah,
see.
see, because what I'm thinking we need to find is something with a really small, like the handheld part and a normal sized antenna for it to be something. And then, it's weird. Don't you think it's weird that it sits I mean, for such a small walkie-talkie, don't you think it would have like gone into the pocket? Like just with gravity?
I
Like,
would want it into the pocket, and I would think it would be into the pocket. I agree with you.
and then like it's sticking out like it's too big to be in the pocket. That's why I think it's a pouch. That's why I think maybe perhaps it's like a leather pouch that maybe you open in their screwdrivers or small little tools to open things. But I don't know. I think it's a pouch.
It's not off my realm of possibility, because I see how, depending on the angle, when you take something and then it's all cut off and that's all you can see of something, that it can
Yeah.
mimic being an antenna as opposed to a rib, the ribbing in a pouch. I'm going to have to look at that one really close with my supersonic glasses on, blown up
I'll
to
send
here.
you. Yeah, I'll send you the pictures that I have. I lined him up. Monk's intrigued. He's coming on the show tomorrow. He's actually the one that I saw this from. He had lined it up, and he was thinking that it was a glove. Maybe it was a finger to a glove. To me, I'm not necessarily certain of that because, somebody else, I think Juanita, forgive me, I don't remember her name. She thought it was maybe perhaps another weapon, like a handgun or another stun gun or something like that. To me, this is too straight to be either a glove or a gun. I think it's too straight. It's not curved enough for either or. And so that's kind of why I think it's a pouch. That's where I'm at. I think it's a pouch. And it's interesting that if it is, and let's just say he had screwdrivers or something like a pick or whatever to try to pick the lock or whatever he could have in there. No idea. Maybe it is a pouch full of other gloves. I don't know. But regardless, if it was designed like let's just say it's some picks or whatever, that's how you take off that doorbell camera, is you just stick something in that hole behind it, like a pick or a screwdriver or whatever, and it pops off. And he was using something else. So I don't know. I don't know what it could be in there. I'm confused. Now I did see some wider Wi-Fi jammers that had the antenna sticking out from the side, which would, if it was an antenna, I would strongly suspect that it's sticking out to the side and that the entire pocket is full. I struggle with a walkie-talkie just hanging out at the entrance of a pocket and not falling into it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think these little antennas, it makes sense. The pictures I found, the
Yeah.
3 possibilities, but I'm keeping an open mind on
I
that.
see the other ones. Oh, okay. Now this one looks small.
Yeah, these, and then there's one other I found. I didn't put it up because these 2 are really good ones, but I really thought that these were the huckleberries, and they were, as you can see, they're at Walmart. I got them on the Walmart site,
Yeah.
and man, maybe
Well,
he got these.
the one thing about him, if he purchased everything at Walmart, I struggle that he purchased them local, because I would assume that those SKU numbers are going to be getting warrants for, and they're going to be going through everybody that purchased them probably in the last year, and and seeing who purchased both or all, all the items that we can see, cross reference those. Even if it's cash purchases, I think you'll be able to, as long as they have the video of, I think you'll be able to pull up the video of them purchasing the item. In fact, they had like Rex Humerman. Didn't they have him on video purchasing burner phones from like a Radio Shack or something of that nature? And so if they were able to, get that footage, from purchases and stuff, I would assume that they would have from here.
But
To me,
they did
Go
it
ahead.
backwards, remember, with Rex,
Yeah.
right? They had who he was, and then they do that. That's they can easily do that. When it's really hard is you have no idea who it is.
No, I agree. But like and in the Brian Koberger case, they were searching for K-bar knives. They went all over the place that they could find the K-bar knife in the area. And what ended up helping out Brian Koberger was that he purchased it while he was in Pennsylvania. And so that kind of masked what, the investigation that they were going through. Had he purchased that item local, I think they would have found him sooner.
But he did it on Amazon.
Right. Correct. That's what I'm saying. So,
We had it mailed to.
right. And they were looking at people that were getting things mailed in, also in the Brian Koberger case, that were in that area. They were even pulling up like UPS and a bunch of other stuff, and they were looking at Amazon. They were looking at websites and what they sent out, and I think they were focusing in on the Pullman and Moscow area, as far as that state, the Idaho and Washington area, as far as those search warrants go, as far as the K-bar knife and the K-bars. If Brian Koberger would have purchased the K-bar knife even on Amazon in Moscow, I think he probably would have, or in Pullman, I think he probably would have gotten caught faster as well. I think the fact that he purchased it while in Pennsylvania and it got delivered to Pennsylvania probably masked that purchase. Don't you think?
Oh, I agree with you. And these are things that are needles in a haystack as an investigator, to go out and say, I'm going to pull up every purchase of, and I would start with just the backpack, because at least it's only manufactured in Walmart, only sold by Walmart initially. And who's going to resell a $10, $15, $13, whatever it was, backpack? No one. Nobody's going to do that on Poshmark or any of these other eBay, anything like that. Only other place you could get it at could be a thrift store, right? If somebody just gave it away. I think it's Walmart is where it's going to end up being purchased. But I agree with you. I don't know what Walmart. There could be so many. How many Walmarts are in Tucson? I once knew. And then also Mexico. There's so many Walmarts. It's unbelievable.
I'll find out. I'll tell you right now. Let me go to Tucson, Arizona real quick. Tucson, Arizona. And then, all right, so I'm in Tucson, and let me search for Walmarts.
There's a lot.
Oh, yeah, there is.
There's a lot. I'm telling you. I remember looking it up, and then Mexico was like more purchases in Mexico than half the United States or something. I've looked all this up once, but I've forgotten the numbers in my head. But it's a lot. It's a lot to go through. And that's why this is taking so long.
Yeah, it's 22 in that area. Now some of them are neighborhood Walmarts. I would reckon they probably don't sell it. So you probably are You can deduce it down to Walmart, Supercenter Walmarts, which are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of those in there. And so 10 Walmarts, that's not including if you go up to Phoenix. Phoenix, I'm pretty sure there's quite a bit. And I'm sure, if this person thought out well in advance, that would probably be if I was committing this crime, that's where I would go is to probably Phoenix. It's a lot harder to find somebody there. It's away from Tucson. It'll make things difficult.
He could have had this backpack for 5 years.
He could have, but the longer he has it, the more likely he's going to leave his DNA behind. And I struggle that they have anything concrete. I feel like the answer that the Pima County Sheriff's Department has put out there when it comes to like DNA and stuff, especially when they say this is going to take a while, is it sounds like they have a lot of unknown DNA in the house. That doesn't particularly mean or point in the direction of the criminal. It could point to him, but maybe not. I mean, Nancy got into an Uber that night. How many other people got into that Uber before her? How many of those folks' DNA managed to get into her house? You know what I'm saying? And so there's probably a lot of DNA in there that has been transferred in there that is not related, and they got to go through all that. And to me, that just kind of screams that there's nothing that they have obvious. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's what Bloom said. He said even worse than that. He said they have nothing, and this is just a shot in the dark. I mean, they have nothing right now.
That's how I feel too. I didn't know that Mr. Bloom thought that. That's what I have been saying. I said, I have been saying that this is going cold. You don't downsize your investigative team, in my opinion. And I don't think Kash Patel throws Pima County under the bus, even if what he is saying is correct, even if he's right. It didn't scream confidence when he was throwing them under the bus. To me, a confident statement would have been like, hey, you know what, despite what may have happened, the obstacles in the beginning, this is what we were able to accomplish. And we feel confident that we're going to have a suspect in custody soon. That sounds like a confident response versus, hey, you know what? Pima County screwed this up. They did this. They didn't even want us there. We got there, and look what we were able to do within 3 days. We got the video. And then my response to Mr. Patel after that is, all right, where's the next piece of evidence? You did something good within the first 3 hours of the first 3 days. Where's the next one? Correct me if I'm wrong, Jen, but FBI typically aren't the responding agency. Is that correct?
That's true.
And so typically they're working from behind. They're not the first officers there. They're usually a day or two behind. So what's different here?
Well, if you believe the Bureau, now we all saw the pictures, and they were certainly, the suits were there. Mm-hmm. The SAC was there. Well, he's actually an ASAC in Tucson, but whatever, he was there. You could see the FBI was there in, I believe, the second press conference. But there's a big difference between just being there and being on scene and saying, if you need something, we'll help you out, as opposed to taking the lead in terms of opening a case and running with your resources. And I personally don't think I think this case is red hot. When I think of a case being cold, I have no leads. I have nothing to run down. I have zero. I don't think that's the case here. I think they're drinking from a fire hose still with just going through tips. But I agree with you that the leads and what they have aren't bearing fruit.
Yeah.
They're
I don't
not.
think so.
I agree with you. If that's what you're saying, not that it's cold, meaning they have nothing to work with, but it's not pointing to anything.
Yes, exactly. I'm not saying that they don't have anything to work with. What I'm saying is that what they have to work with thus far has led to nothing, to absolutely nothing. And that's where I think we're at. And I think that unless somebody says something to someone or somebody goes missing, if this is a 2-person job and somebody's getting, touchy-feely on this, if you're the callous person, you might think, all right, this is a liability I need to take care of. And so, if somebody goes missing, a second crime happens, whether it's them abducting somebody else or somebody going missing because one of them took the other one out. I think that's what's going to end up breaking this case. I'm hoping maybe DNA, they come across something. The guy had a dang mouth light.
I know we keep talking about it. It teased me off. But my whole thing is, and again, this was an epiphany tonight, is Bloom saying his sources are telling him they have nothing.
Yeah.
Meaning, like you said, there's nothing fruitful of everything they're looking at, nothing. And if that's the truth, then I go back to, why aren't you changing the billboards? Why aren't you delivering posters in Spanish? Why isn't all over Tucson you see Porch Guy's face everywhere at grocery stores, convenience stores, polls? That thing should be everywhere. And the FBI has that effort to print all those out. They can change all those billboards. They need more billboards up with Porch Guy's name. Why don't you do that? Why aren't you increasing the reward again? Put it up to 2 million. Because I tell you what, after 1 million, after taxes at 38%, you're really not getting that much.
Yeah. No, you're not. You mentioned his face. So this was interesting. So what Monk's Intrigue did was he did the negative on this image here of Porch Guy. And there was a couple of things that you could see with the negative, some shadows and stuff. And I thought it was pretty impressive. This was the end result. He kind of shows you exactly where it's at. And what he says is that this person has like on the bridge of their nose, and you can see it on the shadows. It's kind of hard here because it has it drawn over. But right here, there's like an indentation that goes down on his nose. There's like a bridge, and then it goes down. Thought that was interesting. You can see certain shapes. You can see, like, for instance, right here where the eyebrow is protruding, like the formation of the eyebrow. One of the things that I saw is a hump right here. And that's an indication of hair. This guy's not bald, in my opinion. You know, you don't have this just lump right there at the right point where your forehead, your hairline should be. So I know a lot of people were thinking this might be Tommaso. I don't think so.
Oh my gosh, it's not Tommaso, people. Sorry, I'm stuck in the mud on that. I put them. It's so ridiculous. I can't even go there.
This is a better one because he draws the outline, and you can see where it pops up right here.
Oh, I think he has hair. I think this is a Hispanic male.
Oh yeah, and I think he does have a beard. And I kind of come up with this. This is what I came up with, adding the hair with AI on top of this. And if this guy does have a full-on beard, and if he has that, and the interesting thing is, he kind of looks like there was a Houston-based sketch artist who drew out what they thought that the person might look like, and it sort of almost kind of looked like this guy here. It kind of did. So I was like, well, obviously the guy has hair. And the biggest thing, because I know a lot of people right now are saying that that Annie may have written the I guess the ransom letter because it was a female tone and some other stuff. I like to think of the who, what, when, where, and why questions, right? When it comes to things, and what was happening when that second ransom note was going down. What was happening at Annie's house? She had law enforcement there. They were just arresting actually Derek, whatever his name is. And so they had the C-SPAN people out there. So if this was Annie, she must have somehow, while law enforcement are in her house, got out an email while they're watching her, while they're monitoring her messaging because of Derek, whatever his name is. Kalela. They're monitoring that. All this is happening. She somehow sneaks out somewhere, delivers this under their noses, and they never see it or hear it or suspect it. I don't think so.
See, it's good. I love, Daniel, how you just put very succinctly and logically why that couldn't be her. I've done these whole shows on that. Let's just look at the facts.
Mhm.
Let's look at what law enforcement does. We would not be at 4.5 months if it was so easy. If it was Tommaso, it'd be solved by now
I agree.
because they would have put the hammer on him. Or if it were Tommaso and Annie or Annie. You know what I mean? That's the easy case.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is the
And so
hard case.
it is. Golden Hen asks, do you think the ransom notes are fake? I think that there's a more than 35% chance that they are. I'm not completely sold that they're real, and I'm not completely sold that they're fake. Does that make sense? I'm in the middle.
You're on the fence. I'm not on the fence. You're on the fence.
I definitely am. I mean, and it's because I don't know, maybe I'm too analytical and I expect behavior and action and words to align. Like Brian Koberger has no authentic piece of him. Everything he did was copy and paste. Everything we saw was copy and paste from different crimes that he had studied as a criminologist, etc. I was able to predict that guy was infatuated with Patrick Bateman based on the statements that he made, as a child, because it was almost word for word as far as the theme of how his feelings were, etc. Action, statements, everything I could make sense. 1 + 1 = 2 in those moments. This one doesn't, and it frustrates me.
It's going to once we know who it is.
I agree. I agree.
4.5 months, just think if we didn't have our, Brian Koberger back then. We only went 5 weeks. This is 4.5 months. We're coming up on 5 months. I predicted movement in 6 months. We're going to see if I'm wrong or not, just based on all the things that they would have to do and how long they would take. But I think I'm probably going to be wrong. I think it's probably going to take longer, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm thinking years. I don't want to.
Not
Trust me.
Years.
I don't want to, but I think this is going to take a couple of years to solve.
You might be right. I only laugh because I'm like, oh no, don't say years.
Yeah, I think years. I don't think this is going to be solved anytime soon. Now, here's the thing: somebody remorseful and somebody reaching out and somebody saying those. I mean, they usually make more mistakes. And that's a mistake on its own to reach out to the media and do those things. Like, that's a huge mistake.
I don't think so. Why is it a mistake? We can't even find him. By the way, another thing Howard Bloom said, which I had never heard before, is they have specific IP addresses that both these notes, remember, supposedly there's a third, but I haven't heard enough to figure that one out. But there's supposedly IP addresses attached to these two notes, the first and the second. I have never heard that.
I heard that today on a couple of the media places. They were saying that today, but they may have gotten that from Bloom.
They did. I'm sure they did. But if there are IP addresses, unless they're Proton, if they are foreign IPs, then they're not going to be able to figure it out. But did you hear also that on that TMZ, he came out, right, and he was really disgusted, and he said he offered up to pay the ransom, and that the Bureau said no and ghosted him for a month?
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard him say that, which I'm at a loss why you wouldn't take the money and do that. And I was on with today with, oh my gosh, what's his name? Peck is his last name. I really like him. He's another FBI agent. Anyway, we were both just dumbfounded. We're like, oh my God, they put up the money and the Bureau didn't do it. But right after he did that show, within 10 minutes, the FBI called him. So anybody who thinks the FBI isn't monitoring some of this, they're very much monitoring it. They called him and they said, the reason that we ghosted you, or the reason that we didn't take the 4 million, because they never said why, is because we're close. We are close to that working, to us figuring out, I guess, the IP or the address of who these.
See, well, then I go back to my statement. It was a mistake, because you put your IP address out there. Now, the weird thing is,
if they find
yeah,
out who, yeah, for
well,
sure.
yeah, I mean, and going back to Brian Koberger, I mean, he didn't, him turning his phone on isn't what got him caught. Him,
Sheath.
deleting his phone history didn't get him caught. It was the sheath. It was the DNA. And, the rest of it was the nail in the pocket or the nail in the coffin. Just like, if they were to find out who this is within a relative short period of time, that evidence doesn't disappear and things of that nature, meaning it doesn't get rewritten or written over, or destroyed, etc. Then that would be probably one of the bigger mistakes that they made reaching out again. It's going to be a nail in their coffin. But to me, like I said, I think it's a mistake. I think that if again, if you're wanting to cease contact and just disappear, then just do that. There's no need to go in there and say, we're sorry, we didn't mean for this to happen, blah blah blah. Even if you're trying to, because I think that there's a time and a place for like you to say, oh, we didn't mean for that, et cetera, and that's usually after you're arrested. It's
Yeah, but to do it in front of it is, again, really smart. It's really smart. Hey, let's put this placeholder in here. We didn't mean to. We didn't know she needed medication. We didn't know she was so infirmed. And we're sorry.
But doesn't that sound like somebody young?
Does it sound like somebody young?
Yeah, doesn't that sound like somebody young? That doesn't sound like a...
It sounds like somebody young. I don't think it was him. And I still am not convinced that this is a native English speaker. I'm still not convinced it's a Spanish speaker that used AI to construct this letter. And there's such a big problem when you go from Spanish to English or English to Spanish, because the way they say things, so much more flowery. It's a romance language. Same with Italian, because somebody's probably going to put up there, Tommaso's Italian. So you got to mention Italian. I'll mention Italian. All the romance, the French. I haven't studied those. That's why I use Spanish, because that's my second language.
There you go. Daryl, I'm not sure which image you're talking about that I can zoom in and do a reverse image on. I don't know. I'm hoping that they're getting close. Them saying that they didn't want to pay the $4 million because of that. It sounded like to me that it was not referencing the $4 million. It was the second person. The second person who was emailing the 12 emails.
I got to tell you, I was confused how Harvey Levin said, but a lot of things Harvey Levin said today confused me.
Yeah.
I was like the ransom notes. Remember, he disagreed. He said, I guarantee there was no apology in the ransom note. It does make you ask the question, did the Tucson woman, Brianna, did she receive a different note than TMC received? And I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, and that screams to me that not well planned. Not well planned.
Well planned to get away with it for 4.5 months so far.
They have, which is why I think that somebody who's gone away with it for this long didn't make those many mistakes like that. And I mean, if they can't find DNA in the house, him having a mouth light, I wonder in his backpack if he had something to clean up after himself, whether that just be like, spray, like Lysol, to just spray down everything behind him. I wondered if that was the case. And the more that this goes without like something concrete, given what he should have had there, there should be saliva in that home somewhere. And sounds like they haven't found it yet. They
haven't. Well, Daniel, before I go to sleep, and because tomorrow my son has, we're celebrating his birthday. I've literally got like 11 kids in the house that snuck in like little church mice after going out. And we're playing a basketball game, which I am terrible at basketball because A, I'm short, and B, I have no basketball skills. So I better get some rest because I'm guarding the 17-year-old girlfriend.
There you go. Well, good luck with that. I hope you do well.
Be
I'm going to
fun.
make sure we have no more supers. We're all good.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so I want to, what do you have going on next?
Oh, well, I had a show lined up that I was really excited to do about these two cases I found that are very much mimic these from a media standpoint, one way or the other, that I wanted to. So I'll probably still do those two shows. And then really that's all I have lined up. I've been so busy with real world work as opposed to, not that this isn't real world work, but you know what I mean, not social media work. So I'm trying to get those cases under control.
Good deal. Well, hopefully everything goes well. I'll be looking forward to it. For me, guys, I'm going to be on tomorrow night with Monks Intrigued. We're going to be talking about, we're just going to be spitballing about this case, the ransom notes, everything else in between. He's got some interesting thoughts and theories on the case as well. And so we're just going to pick each other's brains. So tomorrow, that's going to be the case. True Crime Web says that if chemicals, especially bleach, is randomly sprayed, there'd be a chemical trail. I agree. I mean, we don't know that there isn't one. You know what I mean? So we'll see. We'll see. But thank you, Jen, for staying with me. Please go follow her on Breaking the Case with Jen Coffindaffer. Follow me if you're watching on her channel on the Drunk Turkey Show. I'll be on live tomorrow night. Appreciate everybody that's here. We'll see you guys then. Any final words, Jen?
No, thank you so much for having me on. And thank you to your amazing audience. Every time I put my glasses on, it means I'm going to look at a couple of comments, and I always love the audience on this show. So it's great. You kept me up past my bedtime, Daniel.
I'm sorry. There was a lot of great conversation. And so
yeah, it was. I think I tell you that shoe thing.
Yeah.
Shoe thing, you got me thinking here. I'm gonna dig deep.
I'll send you everything here in a minute.
Okay. You're the best. You're the best.
Right.
Thank you.
Take it easy. Bye, everybody. See y'all next time.
Bye,
Peace.
everyone.